Hello and welcome to the Art of Costume Podcast. I'm Elsa Joy Glass.
And I'm the Grand High Witch, Spencer Williams.
Hi, Spencer.
Hey, good to see you. Happy spooky greetings, dark greetings.
Dark greetings from the East Coast.
Which a lot of spooky shenanigans happens on the East Coast, I'm starting to realize.
But thankfully, in today's episode, we have left the American shores.
Yeah, that's true. We are talking about one of my absolute favorite Halloween films, which I'm very excited I got to share with Elizabeth. We're talking about The Witches. Elizabeth, what did you think?
I was so excited to watch this. The Witches was not on my radar till they did the remake with Anne Hathaway a few years ago. Mm-hmm. But we went back to the OG, the 1990 Witches with Anjelica Huston. And I gotta say, I love how we just keep watching just insane things that don't make sense, but are perfect.
Oh, it's perfect. I mean, it's based on a book by Roald Dahl, so it's already in kooky land.
Yes. It was just so wild. And it's a children's film.
It's a children's film, but it's still kind of spooky, honestly.
It is still very spooky, especially because Jim Henson did a lot of the special effects for this film. Yeah. So, it's at least going to be a little bit of that Dark Crystal scariness.
Let's dive into it. Why don't I give us a little summary and then we could talk about all these fun costumes. The Witches from 1990 was directed by Nicolas Roeg, and it's based on a book by Roald Dahl. While staying at a hotel in England with his grandmother, Luke inadvertently spies on a convention of witches. The Grand High Witch reveals a plan to turn all children into mice through a magical formula. When they find out Luke has overheard the witches then test the formula on him. Now, Luke, who is a mouse, must fight back against the witches. And that is The Witches.
It is charming. Go watch it.
I was in preparing for this episode, which, by the way, there's not a lot of costume facts. Actually, dare I say, zero costume facts. But there are a lot of fun behind the scenes facts. And one of them was that, they continuously tested this film with younger audiences, and we're finding that every time it was too scary for kids. So there's been multiple versions of this film where they've had to change the ending. They had to take out some questionable dark stuff, so much to a point where that Roald Dahl actually was not thrilled with it because he was like, hey, what happened to my dark stuff? And they were kind of like, take it easy,
we made a children's film.
Yeah. I love that.
Let's dive into The Witches and let's meet our costume designer, Marit Allen. You will know her work from Florence Nightingale, Little Shop of Horrors, classic, such a classic, Mermaids, The Secret Garden, Mrs. Doubtfire,
wow,
Eyes Wide Shut, Hulk, Brokeback Mountain, and La Vie en Rose, for which she received an Oscar nomination and a BAFTA win. She unfortunately passed away in 2007.
But talk about a legacy, though.
It was such a legacy. Just between Little Shop of Horrors and Mrs. Doubtfire and Brokeback Mountain, the three of those, that is a wild showing of just how talented she was.
Oh, and I love Mermaids with Cher and Winona Ryder. That is a great film also. I mean, yeah, so many good ones. I would love to talk about Little Shop of Horrors on a podcast one day.
I know, we should.
Well, Elizabeth, there's a lot to talk about with this film, so I think we should take a little break. And when we come back, we're going to head to this hotel that's chock full of just nice ladies who want to protect children and do everything they can to make sure they live good lives.
I can't wait.
Hi, I'm Dan, who does all the magic behind the scenes. I wanted to say thank you, and if you want to support the show even farther, go to tpublic.com/user/theartofcostume, where you can buy a couple variations of our logo on t-shirts, mugs, and stickers. Also, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're an audio listener, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. Now, back to the show.
Elizabeth, it's time to check in to the hotel and talk about our favorite characters from The Witches. And there's a character I knew that you would connect with instantly. And that is Helga, played by May Zetterling, who I affectionately call Grandma because that is the name. I thought her name was Grandma, honestly. Elizabeth, you and Grandma somehow just have such an affinity. I can't really explain it. She's giving Coastal Grandma, but also Van Helsing at the same time.
Absolutely.
Like, she will shoot you dead if you're a witch and smoke a cigar after.
Oh, yeah. Like the way I want to be this grandmother if I ever have a grandchild. She is just like she is just there's just a strong energy of like, I grew up during the war. I can handle anything.
Yeah. It just radiates off of her the entire time.
Grandma's got money. Grandma has Nordic coastal grandmother vibes. She has got the most fabulous sweaters with these just like cozy floral prints.
Ooh, that like floral shawl she wears. Oh, that's a good one.
Yes, her nightwear. She has like perfectly draped like knit tops. They're not sweatshirts. They're just like these perfectly like proportioned cozy knit tops. She's got jewelry, beautiful jewelry, just like always, like earrings, necklace, bracelet, ring. Yes, we're coordinated. And she's just like, I'm smoking my cigar. I don't care if it's bad for me.
Pairing it with the cigar is what gets me.
Yeah.
She's just such a badass. And she walks around with her bag, which, like, you know, typically you're like, oh, an elderly woman with a bag. Like, that's her bag.
It's like a Mary Poppins bag.
It's a Mary Poppins bag, but she also kind of carries it around like a weapon, too. You know, like the way she grabs it, like, she's like, I'll kill you with this.
She's ready. Her friend was kidnapped and slowly murdered through portraiture when she was a child.
Her friend was put in a painting, and Helga has not let go of that. She's ready. She hates witches. Just
she lost a finger to get revenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just it makes her blood boil. So much so, like her grandsons is trying to have a nice night in. She's like, let me tell you about these motherfucking witches.
And I love like the quick scene with his parents who are clearly like, Grandma, were you talking about the witches again?
Yeah.
And she was like, no, not at all. They are real, Luke.
That's so true. And if I ever see a witch on this street, it is on site. I will shoot you dead.
Yes.
So crazy.
Thankfully, Luke is not like most children, and he does listen to his grandma.
Yeah, no, Luke is actually a prepared child, played by Jason Fisher. In terms of costumes, I mean, he runs around in a hoodie most of the time.
Yeah.
So there's not really much to talk about. But, you know, I thought he was such a great child actor. You know, like he really gives a great performance. He's very sweet, very kind. He never steps over the line of like being like too immature. He was actually quite mature for his age.
Yeah.
And does great voice actor work, by the way.
Yes, when he's the little mouse. Absolutely.
Yeah, Luke the mouse, convincing. I thought for sure he could be a real mouse. Yeah.
Yes. I do love that he is just the stereotypical child of like the 80s.
Yeah.
Just like sneakers, jeans, t-shirt, hoodie. Go and play.
Yeah. And it's like a vibrant yellow hoodie.
Yeah.
But we got to talk about the witches in this film, starting with I believe IMDb called her like the witch in black or the lady in black. So there's this moment. Luke just moved. You know, he's in his new home. He's in a tree house at grandma's house or a park. And this lady walks up who looks like she's in like a gothic punk band with a beret.
So punk.
So punk. I mean, it's very Vivienne Westwood. It's so cool.
Yeah.
And she walks up and the same. Luke does what the Puritans did not do in Salem, what like we talked about last week. He immediately is like, that is a witch if I ever did see one.
Yes.
This small child was like, hold up. There's a witch here.
Why is this a well put together lady talking to me, offering me chocolate and snakes? Like,
yeah.
Please leave.
Yeah, please leave. She looks really cool. I love her costume. It's very, the detailing on it, it's very unusual. It kind of sticks out in like a really fantastic way.
Absolutely. Would like 100% add this to my wardrobe if I could.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's very cool. It's very like kind of New York City a little bit. Like New York City in the late 80s. It's, you know, it's all of that. All right. Are you ready to talk about Miss Ernst, aka the Grand High Witch, played by the one, the only, the divine Anjelica Huston?
Yes. Wild.
I mean, I get chills every time she makes her entrance. So great.
It's so great. She has this accent that I think might live in my mind forever. And she just walks in with like this huge, like some of the details in this movie are so 80s, but I'm like, it's so perfect. Because she's got this like huge floral, like capelet dress paired with just like gigantic fastener. And I'm like, I love the hat because like it has a little like knit veil. And I'm like, really? No one thought she was up to no good? Like,
well, what she has going for her is that everyone in this hotel seems to be a witch at this moment because they're coming in for the convention.
That's true. They are covering their tracks.
Yeah. Which is, as we were talking about during the break, they represent the Society of like Defending Children or whatever, which is hilarious. Excellent writing. I love her first. She only has like 2 costumes in the film, if we're being real. And her first one is the entrance look. And to me, it's just very much as like a tea high society look. She's clearly like the woman of high society. You know, this is her space. But then it has like a darkness to it, though. Like she couldn't help but include like her dark purple, which is like really her thing is black and purple. So she's trying to give off this like floral personality, very bubbly, approachable, but she can't help it. She has great witchy style and she knows she could get away with it. That's the difference.
That is absolutely the difference.
One thing I did read about on screenrant.com, there's an article that include a lot of behind the scenes facts about the witches. Anjelica Huston is an icon, but she was not the first person considered. They actually considered a lot of people, but what I noticed is only icons. In the place of Grand High Witch, they were considering Helen Mirren, Sigourney Weaver, Linda Blair, Jodie Foster, Liza Minnelli, and Cher.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine Cher?
That would be absolutely
like
insane.
All of these women are legends right here. I think the only other acceptable casting of the Grand High Witch would have been Cher.
I gotta say, I would pay stupid money for a Liza Minnelli version because that would be absolute batshit crazy because it wouldn't make any sense and I would love that for myself.
True.
But actually it seems that Roald Dahl actually approved of Anjelica Huston's casting. So that was kind of like the stamp of approval. And it was said that Anjelica Huston, who was dating, of course, Jack Nicholson at the time, you know, famously were together for a long time. He would send flowers all the time to her on the set. And then, of course, Jack Nicholson was in Witches of Eastwick. So they have a thing for witchy, campy 80s, 90s films.
Yes.
Oh, good times. I could look at her costume forever, but let's actually step into the banquet hall for all of our witches. And I love this part when we see all of the ladies gather in the hall because it's just such a time capsule. You know, this film came out in 1990, but you could tell that this film was not designed in 1990 because it is very 9 to 5, Dolly Parton, Lily Tomlin, Jane Fonda, like all these like corporate lady dresses, pantsuits, or, you know, like little dresses, the crazy wigs, the jewelry, the shoulder pads. It's a lot. It's so funny to me.
I feel like Marit was like, okay, we are coming to the end of a decade. Let me create this film to pay homage to the 80s. And let me just, I'm like, I wonder if she just put like all her favorite looks of the 80s.
Oh, yeah. It looks like a clothing rack was rolled in and it's a ladies, pick a dress. Pick any dress. It's so much fun.
What's also fun is like, there's this just like, this movie is so wild. It's a thing that like the witches are just like ugly and like wear itchy wigs. So they're all bald and with like scratch marks. And they're like really, because they're all dressed up. Like this is a big deal. The Grand High Witch has come.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we saw how she got out of the car. So you got to dress up a little bit.
Yeah. And then they're all just like scratch marks, bald. But it's like, I just like, take off your shoes, take off your wigs. Hilarious.
It's so good. And one thing that I noticed this time watching, which I hadn't noticed before, but, you know, there's a lot of people in that scene. There's a lot of actors and actresses. So if you notice in the back rows, there's actually a lot of men in there.
Oh my gosh. And that's funny.
There's a lot of men in the scene. And I want to read a little bit about that because I thought that was an interesting choice. And basically what I learned from that Screen Rant article is that, you know, a lot of these women, the witches, they had to be in other scenes, like the famous like dinner scene where they all turn into rats or mice.
Yeah.
So they didn't have that many. They only had so many people, so they actually used a lot of like men extras to kind of like fill in the room, and also seemed like it required less prosthetics for these men because they're like, you know, they're trying to make a lot of these women look a little bit more masculine and not as attractive, so they wheeled in these men and were like,
here you go,
take time. Which is wild.
I'm sure the prosthetic budget on this must have been wild.
Yeah.
I'm sure they were like, let's just get some bald dudes. Like, let's take some pressure off that budget.
Oh, man. Can you imagine that room when all the bald men walked in together and they all looked at each other and like, oh, okay. Like they were definitely looking for something in particular.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. It's such a great scene, especially because of Anjelica Huston.
Oh, man.
Just going wild.
That is probably one of my favorite scenes of all time. I could watch it. Actually, I have watched it over and over and over. The removing of the shoes, the wigs, her accent, her body movement. It's just, I wish I could be a fly on the wall watching this scene happen.
Right? And I love, because she doesn't get changed again, ever. This is her costume for the rest of the film. And it's like, she has this really like sleek, modern for the 80s little black dress on, but with this like shawl / train that she's able to like pull up, and like it looks like a little shrug, or it looks like a little shawl, and it has this beautiful like purple color to it to just like give that little bit of like ooh witchy vibes.
It's so cool. So, like, when I pitched this movie to Elizabeth literally a year ago, because I rewatched The Witches, and I was like, this was the movie that I was like, I want to do a season of The Witch, was actually this movie. I had thought there were more costumes until I rewatched it a few the other night, but then I realized, no, it's because she takes the same costume and just alters it throughout the film.
Yeah.
She picks up the train and, you know, now it's like a cloak because she puts it over her head a little bit, or now she rests it over her shoulders, so now it's a shawl. It's really cool that this one dress is able to do so much, and then at times you can't see it at all, so it just kind of looks like this sleek black dress that's, you know, kind of reminiscent to Morticia Addams a little bit.
Yeah.
So, but obviously a lot, you know, quite revealing too. But so is Morticia Addams. It's I love how she puts the accessories over her black gloves too. That's just such a flex, I would say.
Yes.
Also at LA Comic-Con, Anjelica Huston was there doing signings during mine and Elizabeth's panel, and I was low-key kind of like, oh, what are we doing here? We should be singing Anjelica Huston, but it'll happen.
Was a bit worried I would lose Spencer to Anjelica Huston.
Oh, I want to include this photo.
This is
for
such
Elizabeth.
a great photo.
I found like one random promo photo of Anjelica Huston from The Witches. It
is so perfect.
I don't know where this photo was used, but it's like this random sky blue backdrop with clouds, and she's just working this costume, she's giving off every angle, and again you get to see the train kind of like go up behind her as this big hood. It's fascinating. So we're gonna post it on our Instagram for sure because it's a crazy photo.
Yeah, no, go to the Art of Costume Pod on Instagram. It'll be there. And it'll be on our YouTube, by the way, too. All of these images will be on our YouTube. But of course, Anjelica Huston didn't get to skate by with just this one dress that was very hot and sexy. She also had to do something that required a lot of work. So there's a little bit of a payoff. Elizabeth, we were talking about the Grand High Witch's transformation, should I say, or what she looks like without the mask and she keeps the dress on, actually. It's just no mask. Yeah, this was unexpected.
I'm so surprised.
I didn't know till we were watching this that it was like a Jim Henson production, and that makes so much sense when you see her prosthetics.
I just knew. I was like, there has to be a story behind this look, and there definitely was. That same article, Screen Rant, said it took Anjelica Huston's makeup took 6 to 7 hours to apply and an additional 5 to 6 hours to remove. That is a long time.
Long.
That article went on to say that, you know, obviously Anjelica Huston was initially hesitant about doing roles in general that required makeup to this level. She was Anjelica Huston has a schedule. She wants to stick to it, and she does not want to be in this chair. So I don't know who convinced her. But the prosthetics comprise of a full face mask, a back hump, mechanized claws, a waned collarbone, plus a large snout during her mouse transformation, of course. So they did not cheap out on the prosthetics. She said, they said she's going to get the full experience.
Worth it. Worth it. This is disgusting. This is like scary.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was unsettled when this happened.
Yeah, I was unsettled too. I think what's even more unsettling is when she puts on the wig first. So seeing this look with the wig like is also scary. Yeah. And also just seeing her hunched over in that, costume we were just raving about 10 seconds ago.
Yes.
Seeing the witch hunched over in it is also disturbing.
It is. It absolutely is. It's like I'm like, no wonder they had to do a million edits of this, because this is just like not for children.
Yeah, it's very disturbing, especially when they're chasing around like the rats and they step on that one and like its guts explode everywhere. I like jumped on the couch next to you. I was not ready for that. Which leads me to the kitchen transformation scene.
Stop.
When all the witches start becoming rats. It's just so disturbing.
It is. And also, like, what really gets me is like the green smoke everywhere.
Yeah.
Like that is the finishing touch. It's so disgusting. And then the actual the mouse rat faces.
Oh yeah, it's very scary. And then we have to talk about this one character that was making you and I laugh quite a bit. Just his rat transformation was so disturbing. We're talking about Bruno Jenkins, of course.
Poor Bruno.
It makes me so sad every time I see him. Oh dear. We're looking at pictures on YouTube and it makes me want to turn the page.
Yeah, poor Bruno. He you know what? He gets through everything with a really good attitude though.
Yeah, he does. He does have a very good attitude. Him and Luke, they both become rats and they're like, Bruno Jenkins is like, well, do you have roasted peanuts up at your cool grandma's house? And he's like, grandma probably has more than that for you, Bruno, if we're being real.
Yeah. Grandma's going to make sure we're taken care of, even if your parents won't.
And that leads us to the end of The Witches. It's kind of a short episode this week, but like we said, not a lot of costume facts, but we just had to talk about it. Elizabeth, what did you think of the ending of The Witches?
I liked it. I did not enjoy the idea of him staying a rat forever. It was just a little too sad, especially when the grandma's there at night just thinking about how her life has gone so wrong. She's lost her son, her daughter-in-law, her grandson's a rat now. And I'm just her bestie was killed by witches. I was like, this woman has gone through too much.
Yeah. That last shot of her in her bed sleeping next to her grandson, who is now a rat, is kind of depressing.
Yeah.
And actually, quite a bit of people agreed with you. I learned in that Screen Rant article that there were actually two endings that they tested out. And one was where Luke stayed a rat forever. And because that's how it ends in a book, actually.
Oh.
So I'm actually quite partial to that ending. I just thought it was such a sinister, dark film. I'm like, sure, let him. He seemed happy as a rat. But the film director was like, I don't know. This is a bit dark. So they went with him turning back into a human child. And guess who that pissed off? One Roald Dahl was not thrilled to the point where he actually wanted at one point to take his name off the project and even threatened to do a anti-PR approach to this film, basically.
That's wild.
Shooting it down. But I guess he had a change of heart. I don't really know. I'm not a Roald Dahl-ologist, but that is what the streets are telling me.
I mean, I understand the moral of the story, for children, where it's sometimes things happen in life.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna be changed and there's never gonna be any going back, but you can still make the best of it.
Yeah.
I do think that's the moral of the story, and probably if he had stayed a rat or a mouse or whatever he was. I understand him not wanting to lose the moral of that story, but also dude, the film's gotta make money.
I also love that this is the same guy who does Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, where these kids are literally abused in this factory.
Right?
It's so funny. Well, Elizabeth, time to get down to serious business. Serious business only on the Art of Costume podcast.
Yeah.
This is my serious voice. What was your Stitch rating for The Witches?
I think I gotta give it a 3.
Dang. I was not expecting that.
I would have liked some more explanation about things. Why do the witches hate children so much? At first, I thought it was going to be that's how they keep their youthful appearance.
Mm-hmm.
In so many of the witchy things we have watched. No. They just despise children and think they smell bad. And just generally, what's the witch's deal?
You're sounding more and more like grandma.
Yeah.
Where do you get off, witches?
Literally. But then the acting, the costume, the prosthetics, that just all worked. And it's a great film.
Well, for me, I actually was debating giving my first a 5-stitch rating, but I'm not.
Okay.
But it got dangerously close. I'm going to land on a 4.5 because I think this is a near perfect film. I think it's hilarious. I think it's campy. I think visually it has a visual language that makes sense and works really well together. I think the acting is over the top and fantastic. Anjelica Huston, so on and so forth. I love the darkness of it. I loved squashing the children as rats. I think that's hilarious. I actually feel like I don't like the painting idea. And that to me, I was like, "Wah." It could have been darker. And I was like, ooh, snakes. And
these children live out their lives in paintings and are forced to watch the world around them without being able to interact. That's pretty freaking dark, Spencer.
Darker. Which leads me to my point. Why I'm giving it 4.5. I did not like the ending, and I prefer the book ending. So for that, I'm going to do a 4.5 because I would have liked to see Luke live out his life as a rat. He was
His
happier
poor
that
grandmother
way.
has to bury him in a shoebox in the backyard.
Oh my gosh, the part where he literally says, "How long do mice live anyways, Grandma?" And she doesn't answer. She's like, "Next question, please." Are we ready to play our favorite game?
Yes. Hit it, Daniel.
The one costume to rule them all.
Elizabeth, I feel like this week is kind of ridiculous when it comes to the one costume to rule them all. Because we really have two options.
I know. I'm aware.
Well, you made a trying case for Viking Grandma.
I did. And, like, don't get me wrong, Viking Grandma slaps. But Viking Grandma is not Anjelica Huston. So, my one costume to rule them all, really my, like, one hat to rule them all, is the fascinator Anjelica Huston shows up to the party in. I love the color. Like, the whole, like, black and purple thing she's got going. Lovely.
Yeah.
I like that the hat, there's no shape to that hat. It just is a shape. I think it's just, like, wonderfully weird. And then, like, it's the same thing as in Salem, where it's like, how can you not tell this woman is a witch? She has a veil over her face. And, like, she says she's here to help the children, but, like...
Let's be real.
Does this look like she's here to help the children? No.
Well, I have to go with her other costume, which is the one that she is able to,
Yes.
the multifunctional costume that could turn into a shawl, a cape, a robe, a train, whatever you want. I feel like that first moment where she stands up on stage and she does her pose, you see like model Anjelica Huston, like the Halston model, come to life in that moment. And she just works that dress. I feel like Marit Allen designed this dress knowing that Anjelica Huston was going to like really work it for her character and give it all of its angles. It has so much like movement to it. It's perfect.
Like, I would not be surprised if this movie had a pretty small budget.
Mm-hmm.
So Marit was probably thinking like, oh my gosh, she needs like this high-end look.
Yeah.
I'll bet the original script called for her to have like multiple changes throughout the day.
Yeah. One for dinner, one for like coming inside, one for the convention, for sure.
Absolutely. And Marit really just like put out all the stops and just was a creative genius when she came up with this.
Yeah. How can we make like our one punch really count?
Yes.
Elizabeth, and that is The Witches. I've been very much excited for this episode for like a whole year now, and it was well worth the wait. I had a lot of fun.
Very worth it.
But we are not done with the season of The Witch quite yet. But before we tell you what we have next, don't forget to email us at theartofcostume@gmail.com. Tell us what your one costume rule them all is, and Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube so you could watch and see all of these brilliant costumes on your TV screen as we talk about them. It's a lot of fun.
And next week, Spencer, what are we watching?
Next week, we have a new witch to the scene that we have to get into, but I dare to say has become quite iconic in her short time with us so far.
Oh, yeah.
We are going to be watching the series currently on Disney Plus. I believe there's still might be an episode or two by the time you hear this. Agatha All Along, featuring the one and only Catherine Hahn, who plays Agatha Harkness. Elizabeth, have you started the show yet?
I have started it. I stopped because I'm like, I need these episodes to build up a bit. Because I'm like, I know I'm going to just like
burn through them.
I feel like I'm hoarding them up like little specialty
rats.
candies. Yeah.
Like salted peanuts.
Yes.
I love the show, and I'm very excited to say that we'll be joined by special guest costume designer Daniel Salon, who I got to hang out with at the premiere for this series, and he'll be here to chat with Elizabeth and I about these great costumes. I can't wait. Elizabeth, season of The Witch, I hope it never ends, but we only got one more episode, and it's making me quite sad.
Same. Everyone, have a spooky week.
Bye-bye.